very entertained by the people I was able to bring to be my translators, who spoke either Yiddish and or French. And but then what started happening is I was exploring this apartment, and I started taking more and more pictures of it. And then this series started coming together as a way to paint a portrait of her. And by not including her, it kind of becomes a portrait of old age, of people in general. So the series, again, so these are all the way she had her apartment. None of these were set up. I didn't sort of pull out objects and lay them out. So she had lots of stuff out, partly because she was a little arthritic. She went through periods where she wasn't able to leave the house for a long time. So that's one explanation of why there's so much stuff out, and stuff sort of out on tables. But also she had kind of a depressionary mentality. She would keep lots of stuff, so you see piles of the old soaps and the plastic dishes next to them. So, and again, a lot of people tell me how they relate to that story with people in their own family. You also, there's about 44 pictures in the series. I have some more that unframed prints there on the table, and you can see them all on my website. And when you see them all and you spend time with them, you get a sense of how some of the objects kind of move throughout the house. There's a lot of the same objects here and there. She often has repetition of objects where there's stacks of tomatoes, and there's often, wherever there's one thing like a pair of scissors, there's often 2 or 3 of them, or wristwatches sitting on the table, there's 3 or 4 of them. So this sort of obsession with keeping stuff and not getting rid of stuff, and yet kind of cataloging it, it's that part of her personality comes through. The other thing that I do in this series is I was photographing the same scenes, in this case this table in the living room, over these different visits. And so in this one you can see this tablecloth on the right didn't change between June and October 2003 and October 2005. And you see there's on the left, there's the same one, on the left this one's changed, and the vase is still there, and there's a different kind of faded yellow flower, and you can just see some of the things that change, and some of it stay the same. There's some of the shows where there's 2 or 3 pictures again of the same scene. You also get get little hints about her life. This is something in Hebrew that was peanut cookies that my uncle in Israel sent her, and then in other pictures there's stuff like from Costco that my mom in San Diego sent her. So anyhow, in the whole series, when you go through the living room and the kitchen and the bedroom and the bathroom, you piece together these stories of her life. And then I have 2 of the big panoramic prints that zoom out a little bit and give you a sense of the relationship of objects in these rooms. So my work in general is I'm always trying to get photography to show us things that are invisible. So in this case, the passing of time and this person's personality. A lot of my work is also about the nature of human perception. So the way you perceive time changing, you visit a relative's house or your own house, how the stuff there moves around and changes over time. So I explored those kind of themes in my work in a variety of ways. I have a catalog here that shows some of my other work if you want to see, and my website is arisalomon.com. Thanks. First question.
How did she feel about you taking pictures of everything?
Yeah, she was fine. She didn't really care, and actually, so this one is from 2003, and was sort of one of the first. I had just started experimenting with panoramic photography, and I took this one. I spent a lot of time massaging it in Photoshop, getting all the scenes cleaned up, and go through a big process when I do the panoramas. The other ones were more straightforward. And I had actually shown it in the show, and I made a postcard for that show, and so I showed it to her, a couple years later, and she was just not very interested. She just was never into art and didn't really get it. She's like, it's my bathroom. Taking this or showing it to people, so she didn't care. She certainly didn't bother her that people saw her. She wasn't like, oh, people are seeing my messy apartment. She didn't care about that. She was really into talking about the Rue Dugommier, Fires of Love, which is the French translation of The End of the Restless, which was her show. We have to schedule our visits around. So she had a lot more to say about that than about art or about decoration for her.
You said she was born in Poland. Do you know when she left France?
It was in the late 20s. I'm sorry, it was in the late 30s. It was in the late 30s that both she and my grandmother left. So before things got bad in Poland, they had left early.
So I wonder if her history has anything to do with her desire to collect things, if everything was taken away from her. Is that?
Yeah, yes, again, in American we also use the phrase depressionary mentality, and I think it's a similar thing, but maybe not from obviously American depressionary, but
And you said she actually put these things out like that on purpose?
that's just
Anything that stays on it.
Cezanne, yeah.
And they still.
Well, he was French too, right? They do have such an interesting. It has such an interesting quality to it. Yeah, the every object. The other thing that attracted me to it was the funky tiles, and it was this very small apartment growing up in the suburbs in San Diego. Especially things like over the kitchen sink is a tankless water heater faucet. So the water gets heated up in this little thing, and that is the kitchen faucet, which is common among older European apartments and other places in the world.
So she never married or had children?
Her husband had died maybe 10 years before, in the 90s, but she never had children.
Is that, maybe you said this, but is that curvature in the bathroom, is that from taking with a fisheye lens?
Yeah, so it's not a fisheye lens. The way I shoot panoramas, and I do a lot of other panoramic photography, is I'll shoot a series of pictures and then stitch them on the computer. And so the camera is just in one place and I'm rotating it. And then there's software on the computer that I use to stitch it. And as I mentioned, I'm often spending a lot of time cleaning the scenes and doing a lot of other cleanup work when I do the panoramic photos. I also have a lot of work in this series. Over the years that I shot on many different cameras. And so I did a lot of work trying to massage the pictures and the color balance and specular highlights and the flash and all this stuff to get the images to look like, to not have the differences, technical differences, to be distracting. Any other questions?
Ari, I don't know if I asked you this question. Is this the first time you've profiled someone within the course of your work as an artist? Or have there been other lives that you've...
Yeah, no, this is all in one, and for me, a lot of my other work is based in street photography and has a different kind of take on street photography. And my experience of doing this work was very much like street photography. I had sort of moved in at a time, and again, it's not set up, and I was just walking around this apartment trying to find interesting scenes. No, I haven't, and I've thought about it, and I don't know if the right opportunity came, I would consider it, but this was kind of a unique setup.